mola, mola. I wanna with the mola, make love with the mola. Chicky chicky, I have fun with the mola. Kiss for me mola, suck my dick mola, mola. Lick my face, be my slave, come and street for me mola. Wanna come with the mola, in the sun with the mola. Wanna weep with my beat, point a gun to a mola. Bang bang to a mola, don't be sad mola, mola. Wanna bang bang with the mola. Hit me twice. Fuck me on some bags full of rice. Your tongue between my legs, paradise. Muhammad wanna love Jesus Christ. Make that's the aim for us. I like it dangerous. I let you taste my God. Other drip on your face, smell like danger dog. Get down in the name of God. Your body looks so cute under your eyeball. Take off your hijab. I swear I won't tell your baba. I wanna with the mola, make love with the mola. Chicky chicky, I have fun with the mola. Kiss for me mola, suck my dick mola, mola. Lick my face, be my slave, come and stream for me mola. Wanna with the mola, lick the sun with the mola. Wanna weep with my beat, put the gun to a mola. Bang bang to a mola, don't be sad mola, mola. Wanna bang bang with the mola. Mola, mola, mola.
Thank you so much, Faravaz, together with Ulysse of Music, for opening this night together. We will see you back shortly. Fortunately, we have much more of our music to come. Welcome everyone to the Freedom Lecture about Iranian resistance. As you can see, we have amazing guests for you tonight. We will have a lot of presentations and also conversations about what happens at this moment after the terrible day in September that started off the protest with the death of Mahsa Amini. I think more than 20,000 people have been arrested in Iran in the protests over the last few months, and even also a lot of people have found their death there. So that's what we will be talking about tonight with all kinds of people from Iran. We will start off this evening with the Freedom Lecture, and I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, Niloofar Azimian, who will give us this lecture. Whatever you want, you can stand up there if you like.
It's a bit strange to give presentation after this beautiful performance. I wish I could just listen to that instead of this one. But anyway, we'll start. As an Iranian woman, I experienced discrimination and oppression throughout my childhood, covering my hair, covering my body since I was 7 years old. I was arrested by the morality police so many times when I was young for so many different reasons. Because my manto was too short, my hair was too much for my scarf, or I was laughing too high. Most of the time, I didn't oppose. I didn't fight. Instead, one day I decided to leave my dear country, my dear Tehran. 4 months ago, on September 16, 2022, a quiet sunny day in Tehran, Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old beautiful girl, was arrested by the same morality police while enjoying her vacation in Tehran because of wearing what they call improper hijab. She was arrested by those scary police vans laying in the streets of Tehran, waiting every day to hunt more women. But Mahsa opposed. She fought, and she was killed. She was murdered by the morality police of the dictatorship of Islamic Republic. The day after, as a daily ritual, I call my family, no connection. I call my friends, no connection. This is the sign as an Iranian immigrant we are all aware of. The internet is cut off again. This means there are more Mahsa Amini are getting killed in the streets of Iran at the moment, and the world shouldn't know. From the moment she dies, she was born again thousands of times in every single Iranian woman. And the word Mahsa Amini became a code not only for the biggest woman movement in history of Iran, but a universal code for freedom. He was the mullah, if you didn't understand in Faravaz's performance. And most of the women that you watched in this video, they were killed or they were imprisoned because of protesting for freedom last 4 or 5 months in Iran. For the last 44 years, Iranian women have been fighting for their freedom by simply existing, by risking their lives, doing many things that are considered crime by the Islamic Republic, such as having partners without marrying, having parties, kissing their loved ones in the streets, dancing, singing, drinking alcohol, and illegal abortion. 2003, I was 18. My first year of university and the first sensations of independence and freedom far from my family. Now my mom is not here worrying, sitting on the stairs, waiting till I'm back from the party, as there is always a high risk of getting arrested at parties. One night I was going in a car with my boyfriend. We arrive at my student house. He parks the car. We don't know, but a police motorcycle is following us. The policeman stops at my window, and he surprises me with his eyes full of anger. "Are you married?" That night, I had to sleep in a dark prison cell alone. Crime? Having a boyfriend. I guess that was the first crime I ever committed. I knew since then that a bigger fight had started for me. After my family, now in university and in the society, we had to fight every day for our basic needs. The familiar feeling, mix of guilt, fear, and anxiety did not stop us from experiencing the excitement of secretly dating who we liked. We had to be back in university in the women's dormitory every night at 8 p.m. The guys' dormitory didn't have a time restriction. We were always united to find a way to escape the restrictions. We pretended to be sick and hospitalized. We jumped over the walls. We lied. Pretending was a strategy that we learned in order to survive. Some point, we stopped lying. We stopped pretending. We stopped screaming inside. Some left the country, but stayed painfully connected. Some went to the street to protest. Some were arrested. Some were killed, and some became their voice. Year 2000, I'm a teenager. I always had to wear those ugly religious school uniforms, looking like a potato sack, and hide my hair under scarves. Every day living with something I didn't choose, many times being incriminated by the school manager for cleaning my eyebrows, dancing during the break, listening to Madonna, and eventually feeling ashamed of my womanish body. Most of us were trying to hunch more to conceal our breasts. We were even ashamed of getting our period. When we bought tampons, we always carried them in dark plastic bags. That way, nobody knew about our secret. The only time I could proudly say I'm on my period was when we were obligated to pray at the school. Their God doesn't welcome women to prayer room when they are on their period. So I didn't have to pray. At the school break, we had to go to this ugly room filled with rose water smell. We had to put on chador and pray behind the mullah. While praying, when I had to put my head on the sill, I finally felt free. Drowning in my dreams, nobody could control here my inner world. All Iranian women have the same experiences. We all hate rose water, and it smells of captivity. As an Iranian woman, we were fighting every day for being who we are. Only now our internal fight of years has erupted and flowed into the streets, in the bazaar, in public transportation, and now these brave people are getting shot and killed in the streets. These are videos of government forces that are now even shooting people in the metro. And their security cameras can recognize people and arrest them later. Now women of Iran started to cover the security cameras of the metro with their pads. And this became a statement. We are not ashamed of being a woman anymore. Nothing can stop us from being a woman. Nothing can stop us from liberating ourselves and our country. 2010.
دست به دست هم دهیم و از ستم رها شویم جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری به همدلی و خواهری جهان شاد و بهتری نه سنگسارها نه پای چوب دارها نه گریه های بارها نه ننگ و آرها جهان دیگری بسازیم از برابری به همدلی و خواهری جهان شاد و بهتری
2010, I'm 25. I got pregnant. Against my will, I had to secretly abort my baby because my boyfriend and I were not married. According to the doctor, I was carrying a crime. I wasn't surprised. I had committed crime before. According to the government, in the eyes of the religious traditional part of the society. So many of the Iranian women I know suffered from the same experiences. 2012, I'm 27. When I started my first business, I was designing clothes, trying to change the form of hijab that the government imposed on us. Still covering all my body and all my hair, but with different forms of clothes and adding more colors. That wasn't enough. All of a sudden, the police arrested me. In order to be released, I had to sign that I will not design clothes anymore. I was too scared to oppose and continue what I loved. Instead, I stopped my business and I left the country. This was a way of fighting for us, to transfer hijab from maghne, this one, to a scarf, from a scarf to shawl, then to move the shawl further down and eventually to put it on our shoulder. From chador to manto, from long manto to a shorter one, from short manto to blouse. 2015, I was 30. I got the opportunity to display my second documentary movie in Tehran Main Film Festival. I made a movie about domestic violence against women in Iran. The day after, government newspapers says that my documentary was against Islam. When this happens, you know you might get arrested. You might stay whole your life in prison. I got scared. I had to leave the country immediately. I didn't make movies anymore. I preferred not to risk my chance of going back to Iran. I stopped fighting. Back then, I didn't know the only people who can truly feel free are the ones who are fighting for it. There are so many filmmakers, journalists, artists who stayed in Iran. They are risking their lives and they are fighting for freedom every day. Now I know the definition of freedom is fighting for freedom, to fight for being what you are, even if you are risking your life. Iranian women who are risking their lives fighting for freedom in the streets are a great lesson to the world. You can sprout in the most barren soil. They are waving their scarves in the streets, risking their lives to send their message to the world. It doesn't matter where we live. As human beings, we are free by nature and we must be free. Being human is bound by your fight for freedom. During the last 40 years, we had so many protests, so many brave people were killed and imprisoned to bring freedom to the country. But this time, young Iranian women stand up all together, using their unifying power to bring liberty to the country. The movement spread to the world, and to me, this is what happens when women lead a movement. When women rise from the ashes of years of limitation, frustration, and judgments. Despite years of oppression, the Iranian spirit remains full of inspiration and joy. Even though the Islamic Republic covered our lives with their dark veil, we kept on dancing. The forbidden act of dancing has been one of the most effective fighting tools for freedom and against limitation in Iran. I have made this video to honor those beautiful souls who sacrificed their lives for freedom, those who were fighting for truth, equality, and justice. And because of that, they were killed by the murderous regime of Islamic Republic. This is the last dance of those free spirits. Thank you for listening.
much. One video left? Okay, let's watch it.
ای شرقی غمگین بازم خورشید در اومد کبوتر آفتاب روی بوم تو برزد بازار چشم تو پر از بوی بهاره بوی گل گندم تو رو به یاد میاره ای شرقی غمگین تو مثل کوه نوری نزار خورشیدمون بمیره تو مثل روز پاکی مثل دریا مغروری نزار خاموشی جون بگیره ای شرقی غمگین وقتی آفتاب ترودی تو شهر بارونی بوی عطر تو پیچی شب راهش رو گم کرد توی سوی تو گم شد آفتاب آزادی از اون چشم تو خندی ای شرقی غمگین تو مثل کوه نوری نزار خورشیدمون بمیره تو مثل روز پاکی مثل دریا مغروری نزار خاموشی جون بگیره
Thank you so much. We will talk more in a few moments, but first I want to ask Maryam Namazie to go up the stage and will give us a presentation about the Freedom Charter and about the protests. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for your moving talk and video as well. I just want to see if my thingy works. Where's my thingy? I don't think that's mine.
Let's see, maybe if you go the other way, the other button.
Nope. Oh, me? I'm not touching it. Well done. That's why you're in charge here, Sophie. Thank you very much. So much of what I want to say has already been said so beautifully by you, Niloofar. We're here because of, in large part, because of Mahsa Jina Amini. Her Kurdish name is actually Jina, but in Iran, Kurdish names are banned from official documents, and that's why we know her as Mahsa Amini. And this is her. And as we know very well about what happened is that she was brutally arrested, she was dragged away by the morality police whilst visiting Tehran for re-education. And the Islamic regime of Iran has for many decades now arrested, detained, threatened, and harassed women. And here's just one example of a woman being hauled off. What they did to Mahsa Jina Amini was business as usual for the Islamic regime of Iran. Everyone here talks about The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is a real-life Handmaid's Tale. And it was business as usual for them. And this is what happened when they detained Mahsa. She arrived at Castro Hospital a few days later, brain dead, her skull fractured. What was different this time, though it was business as usual for the Islamic regime of Iran, what was different is that as soon as news of her lying at Castro Hospital spread, the two journalists that spread this news are still in prison, and they're charged with very heavy, the crime of violating national security. People gathered in front of Castro Hospital, and they also gathered in front of her grave, at her funeral. And it is here that we heard the slogan, Jin Jian Azadi, woman, life, freedom, a slogan that was first raised in Rojava, a center of feminism in Syrian Kurdistan, and we heard it here as well. And this is really Jina's revolution that we have witnessed since the 16th of September, what I call a woman's revolution, a woman-led revolution, though men are side by side with women fighting for women's rights and for an end to Islamic rule. And we know very clearly what happened after that. We've seen women and girls on the streets of Iran burning their veil. We've seen them dancing, which is illegal in Iran. And schoolgirls have been very active in this revolution. I hate this clicker, by the way, sorry. Oh, gosh. Doesn't work. And this is a key slogan because when the Iranian regime imposed compulsory veiling in government offices, there was a mass protest in Iran, 1979, March 8th, International Women's Day. And the slogan of the Islamists were, you either veil or you will be punched. And today we have young schoolgirls saying, neither a veil nor a punch, but freedom and equality. This is a Generation Z that has no illusions towards any aspect of an Islamic state. It's not that they want reformists or that they're against conservatives. They don't want any aspect of an Islamic state. The characteristics of this movement is hugely secular, it's anti-clerical, Turban flying is a new phenomenon in Iran, and a very good one, I think. Now it works. Sorry. And you can see also anti-religion characteristics in this movement. This is a 9-year-old Kian Pirfalak who was shot dead by the Iranian regime. And this is his mother at his funeral. This is Mohsen Shekari. He was one of 4 working-class men have already been executed by this regime since the protests. Many more are at risk of execution. And this is Mohsen Shekari being taken to execution, and he's being interviewed for the last time by the state-run television in Iran.
تو وصیت‌نامه‌ت چی نوشتی شما؟
کجا خاکم کنن؟ دوست ندارم گریه کنن سر مزار.
دوست نداری قرآن بخونن، دوست نداری برات نماز بخونن، دیگه
نماز نخونن.
درست.
شادی کنن. آهنگ شاد پخش.
And a lot of new revolutionary songs that have come out have an anti-religion sentiment. And of course, another aspect is because the veil is very much linked to women's bodily autonomy. The veil is a symbol of women's erasure from the public space. And therefore, you see reflections of this and the demand for bodily autonomy. Here's one slogan that's written that says, "The body riots." And there are photos of women and girls in front of graffiti that says "Woman, Life, Freedom," showing themselves in their bras as a way of protesting controls and restrictions on women. And as we know, the Islamic regime of Iran does one thing very well, and that is suppression and repression of the population. And it has met these protests with brute force using weapons of war. Over 500 protesters have been killed. As Niloofar mentioned, 18 to 20,000 people, or Sophie mentioned, have been arrested. And from the over 500, over 70 of them are children under the age of 18. And this is one example of their brutality. And these are the 4 young men who have already been executed, all working class. The Islamic Assembly had asked, a majority of them had asked for the execution of those who've been arrested. But since these 4 were arrested, there were other political prisoners that were meant to be executed, but families and people have been protesting in front of prisons, and so far no others have been executed, and it's important to keep that pressure on. And the protests continue in various ways via slogans from balconies, and also recently those who have been arrested continue their resistance. These are women political prisoners activists who've just been released from prison, and this is them saying slogans. So in front of prison, just after they've been arrested, they've been tortured, they've been threatened not to carry on their activities. They're saying, "Down with the oppressive state and woman, life, freedom." And just this past week, it was the 40th day after the murder of execution of 2 of the protesters I had mentioned earlier. And this is another characteristic where it's not people going and mourning, but protests continuing around these ceremonies that were religious ceremonies, but are now political ceremonies of protest and resistance. And of course, as we know, there's so much that has been done and needs to be done to support this women's revolution. This is a revolution that could possibly change the face of the world. It could herald a new dawn if we give it the support and encouragement and solidarity that it requires. One thing is very important is to put pressure on Western governments to stop supporting the Islamic regime in Iran. And this is a wonderful banner at a protest where it says, "Iranian women don't need you to save them, but they do need you to stop supporting their murderers." And of course, there are other dangers too. in preventing regime change from above. I think that's another danger that we face, and we have to be sure to nurture and encourage and support and echo the voice of those in Iran who are fighting for fundamental freedom and change. I wanted to speak to you about the Iran Freedom Charter, which is something that a group of us women's rights campaigners organized and drafted here in Europe. And the idea behind this charter was based on what was done in South Africa. During the fight against the apartheid regime in South Africa, you had anti-apartheid activists gather together, bring about a draft document, and then ask people to add to those demands, to add whatever demands they thought was missing from this draft. So it's actually a draft. You can find a copy there. And those who sign on to this initial set of demands can add their own demands to it. And if enough people add their demands to this document, then there can be a People's Congress where a final document is developed that will reflect the hopes and aspirations of people in a free Iran. But something more exciting has happened since then, and it is this. It is just a few days ago, there is a manifesto which is of minimum demands, and it has been issued from Iran by over 20 independent trade union, women's rights, student, labor rights organizations, and it's very, very much similar to the demands of the Iran Charter, the Women, Life, Freedom Charter. And I think this is something that is hugely important for all people to support, because the reality is that unity must come on principles and politics, and what are the basic things that we all dream of and aspire for in a free Iran. And if you look at this wonderful document, of which groups that have a long history of fighting for rights in Iran have put together, including a high school group has signed on to this. It's 20 groups. And if I can just give you some of the names of the groups that have signed on, it includes the Free Union of Workers of Iran, Union of Student Organizations, the Center for the Defense of Human Rights, the Haftape sugarcane factory workers. You've got Voice of Women in Iran, Center for Defense of Workers' Rights, Union of Retirees, Organization of Progressive Students, Council of Free Thinking Secondary Students. So a very exciting group of activists and organizations that have worked for many years and fought for many years for a civil society and a better society. And some of the demands in this are immediate and unconditional release of all political prisoners, unconditional freedom of belief and expression and thought, abolition of capital punishment, revenge killings, torture, equality of men and women, recognition and of the LGBTQ community, and decriminalization of all sexual orientations, for religion to be a private matter, for work safety, job security, for the abolition of any laws that are based on national and religious discrimination and oppression, dismantling organs of suppression, confiscation of properties by the state that have been used to repress people, ending destruction of the environment, prohibiting child labor, and normalizing foreign relations and banning nuclear armaments. So today, I think one thing that all Iranians can do is to support this minimum demands. And I think for people across the world, there is a reason why this revolution has so inspired people everywhere, and why the slogan Woman, Life, Freedom has taken a life of its own, why Mahsa Amini, the hashtag was the most tweeted hashtag in the history of Twitter. It is because this revolution has that people see a reflection of their own dreams and aspirations in this revolution. And we have to remember that the Islamic movement has made the world a living hell since the establishment of this regime over 40 years ago. And don't forget, it has also helped the rise of other religious right movements, like the Christian right, the Hindu right, the Buddhist right, the Jewish right. And that's why people do feel that this might be a way in helping to challenge the Islamic movement where it hurts the most, because the reality is that this movement, with all its brutality, has always targeted women. Women have been its first victims. And the veil is a symbol of the most visible aspect of this regime's rule. And that's why the unveiling of women in Iran, burning the veil in Iran, is so crucial in people feeling that there is hope and that there is a real movement in a country that has been labeled Islamic that challenges this regime to its core. So I think that we all need to support this revolution as our own. Jinjan Azadi is a slogan for our century. And it's something that we should all be wholeheartedly supporting. And finally, I want to show you a video for no other purpose than that this girl is really cute. Yeah. Can you have to play it though. She says, Zan Zendegi Azadi, woman, life, freedom. So, to her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maryam Namazie, for this wonderful, wonderful insight, which is quite heavy, but ended on a cheerful note, at least. I would now like to have your attention for the next performance, but it is actually not really a performance. It is someone who is going to tell her life story. I would like to welcome Niloofar Azimian.
Dear audience, would you mind to stand up for 20 minutes? 20 minutes.
In the Islamic Republic of Iran, as soon as you are born with a vagina, or you have different sexual orientation, or your body does not match your gender, you are condemned to endless suffering and anger. If you avoid starting a family or don't want to take office jobs, you will be rejected by your friends, family, and society. Since the Islamic Republic of Iran has deprived people of the right to form any community and group, only family institutions are allowed to exist. Queer and people who don't follow standards are extremely lonely. They can find each other in cyberspace and undergrounds with fear and trembling. But now, there has been a revolution. Everything has changed. Now the outcasts have taken back the streets and they are dancing hand in hand. The Islamic Republic is extremely misogynistic, homophobic, and against diversity. They have shown many times with many executions and heavy sentences they do not accept any other form of life other than their own lifestyle. I was a nude model in Iran for 5 years. We were many. We used to find work through Telegram channels and underground. Of course, we did not have job security because the law did not support us. I was harassed many times by the painters and photographers I worked with, but there was nowhere to complain. They arrested us. We faced the most severe insults and humiliations. In the Islamic Republic, there is no curtain between them and your privacy. They can see you everywhere, even in your bed when you are sleeping. They follow you and you hide. That's why their eyes are now blinded by seeing even one strand of hair. They found us one after another. I thought I was going to a project with a photographer. I got off the taxi and 4 robed figures fell on me like a nightmare. They put me in a private car. They didn't have a uniform and it was not clear where they were coming from. Because the woman and I were naked models, they made sexual jokes about us so that you lose your human desires forever. One of the agents was a woman. She was laughing at us and said that we were whores and bitches. She was laughing at us from her safe place, from her house, which she always returns at 4 o'clock, while we were shaking and crying. Getting into a private car of the Islamic Republic in the name of naked women and without anyone waiting for you at home in Tehran can be death itself. In our minds, we were already dead. They did not see us. The agents of the Islamic Republic can't see anywhere or anything. In their eyes, we were a bunch of wild bastards who need to be rid of the city. I had to flee from Iran. I was wandering in Turkey for 4 months and I saw the helplessness and the restlessness of the displaced people at the borders and immigrations of Turkey. What you may have seen so much of in the news has now become untouchable. After 4 months, when Turkey did not accept me, I fled to Italy by boat. We waited for human traffickers in basements of Istanbul for a month. In these basements in Zeytinburnu, people don't matter much. We were just money for them. Pregnant women, tall and medium-sized children who were usually hungry and sleepless. 40 people in 20-meter square room. It's hard for you to even imagine the horrors I saw and human depravity in these illegal undergrounds. Finally, the boat arrived. How can I tell what will happen in that boat in the middle of the ocean? What happens when minutes do not pass and you are asleep in the gears of time in the turbine of a boat that travels 4 kilometers per hour in the Mediterranean Sea? In the middle of the ocean, the boat's engine stopped working and the storm was coming. So men took sleeping pills to die in their sleep. We were 80 people in a small boat. We were also floating in urine and vomit. The boat did not have a captain and no one was controlling it. It was water and sky as far as the eye could see. Through the hatch on the roof, I could see a small room of the boat. The men were naked and wet. Auschwitz were floating in the sea.
Schwarze Milch der Frühe, wir trinken dich nachts, wir trinken dich mittags, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Wir trinken dich abends und morgens, wir trinken und trinken, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Sein Auge ist blau, er trifft dich mit bleierner Kugel, er trifft dich genau. Ein Mann wohnt im Haus, dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, er hetzt seine Rüden auf uns, er schenkt uns ein Grab in der Luft, er spielt mit den Schlangen und träumet, der Tod ist ein Meister aus Deutschland. Dein goldenes Haar, Margarete, dein aschenes Haar, Sulamit.
I saw with my own eyes that we who got off the Italian police boat were immortal monsters with piles of drawn bones on our shoulders. After 5 days on the water, when you put your foot on dry land, you get confused and you stagger. At night you have nightmares about the sea. Not the beautiful sea that the tourists are watching on the beach. They put us in line. They asked questions. They asked, do you want to stay in Italy? Usually, no one says yes. The situation of asylum seekers in Italy is awful. They do not receive any support from the government. I answered, no, I want to go. They forcibly took our fingerprints, and of course they emphasized that this fingerprint has nothing to do with Dublin, and it's for criminal records. But now they want to deport me and many others to Italy because of the fingerprints. Many immigrants and refugees from Italy goes to another European countries. Because of Dublin, they have to live illegally and secretly for 6 months, or the third country will return them to Italy. Italy does not accept refugees back. You may have seen on the news that boats are wandering around the Italian border in the Mediterranean Sea and are not allowed to enter Italy. It wasn't 2 weeks after I arrived that I saw Gina on my phone screen at gameplay. The first picture, then the hospital bed, and I was sitting on a bed in the middle of a large and cold sports club in the north of Holland, and the crowd of refugee women with strong and soft bodies were passing by, singing, running and dancing, and there was an untranslatable sadness and anger among all of us that it connected us. I saw Gina, and it was a revolution. My body was burning. What was I? What could I be? I was other every moment. I was Mehdi, Nika, Mohammed, Sarina, Kian, Khodanur. I was nameless. Every piece of me in an Iranian city. Peace on the way in Istanbul. Peace at the border. Pieces in a friend's room in Amsterdam. Peace in the camp. Every piece of me was stuck somewhere. I'm naked. This is the body of nature, the body of the earth. You are born from it. You feed from it. Lake Urumia, Hyrcanian Forest, Zagreb Oaks, Kohrang Mineral Spring. Capitalism sucks and destroys everything that shows fertility and life. After my naked protest in Amsterdam, there was a flood of anger and hatred. They say you are spying, fornication, crookedness, crossing the line. We will find you and kill you. In the middle of the night in Northern Europe, in the Netherlands, next to the noble city, in the middle of the refugee camp. I light my cigarette and I'm careful that someone jumps out from behind the bushes and attacks me. I wish another would for you and those who hanging in the borders, camps and prisons. In the Islam.
Thank you so much, Niloofar, for being so brave to share with us your life story and to show us what it means. Thank you for being here. It's quite a heavy evening, but I think that's only right. I would like to ask our musicians to come back on stage and to show us a little music. Yes, please come forward, Faravaz, and yes.
Spaces, what are we living for? Abandoned places, I guess we know the scores. On and on, does anybody know what we are looking for? Another hero, another mindless crime behind the curtain in the pantomime. Hold the line. Does anybody want to take it anymore? Show must go on. Show must go on. Turn up the music, turn down the lights. I got a feeling I'm gonna be alright, okay, alright. It's about damn time, turn up the music, let's celebrate. I got a feeling I'm gonna be okay, okay, alright. It's about damn time. I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. Alright, alright. It's about that time. I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. Hey! I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. I'm coming out tonight, I'm coming out tonight. Oh yeah. Is it? گیج و گنگی و خوابی و بیداری میترسی اما ترساتو دوست داری تو حالی از غم راه میری انگار از خط کشیدن سیری تو یه زن قوی جون سختی که تو تلاش واسه خوشبختی کفشات و گاهی آهنی ساختن از تو یه دافع خواستنی ساختن میون این موج جمعیت تو محوی عروسکت کردن به هر نحوی رشدت رو تو لطفه خفه کردن مسیرای زندگی تو یک طرفه کردن میخوان که دنیا کلک باشه هرچی که میبینی برفکی باشه اما تو جور دیگه ای خوبی چشتا تو به آینه میکوبی تا بشکنی کلیشه سازی رو نگاه مضحک مجازی رو اما تو جور دیگه ای خوبی چشما تو به آینه میکوبی تا بشکنی کلیشه سازی رو نگاه مرتن مجازی رو
Just stay there for a minute because
Sure.
I want to ask you a question. Can you tell us something about your music?
Should I tell something about my music?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I was singing about love, about life, and about the things in general pop singers are singing. But then I've been arrested in my country because of singing and because of publishing my songs on social media. And after that, singing became my weapon. And I'm fighting for my voice and for all the female singers who are living in Iran and so many amazing talented who are not able to sing and to be seen and to enjoy of being on stage. And when I generally for Iranian community, I'm a provocative singer because I'm women, I'm a fat woman, and like I'm singing about politics. It's always better to sing about flowers and birds and like how our relationship is beautiful and like such stuff. And but you know, singing is for me is I'm a fighter, and the things what I'm fighting for, it's like my voice. And yeah, here we are.
That's a beautiful answer. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have one last presentation to go, and I think we will dive into the numbers really deep now, because I want to I want to introduce you to Pooyan Tamimi Arab. I hope I say it correctly. Assistant professor at the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies, and he will give us a latest report on the situation in Iran. Please welcome him.
Sorry, let me just get this thing started.
I hope the clicker works a little bit better with you.
Should I press anything? Just to the right? Good enough. All right. All right, so what we've seen and heard so far is intense, emotional, and I'm going to show you numbers. But at the end of this presentation, I hope that you understand that those numbers express some of the emotions that we've seen today. So I work besides the university, for a group called GAMON, the Group for Analyzing and Measuring Attitudes in Iran. And I have to start with providing the context of our work and speak a bit about methodology. Bear with me. I will, however, get to our latest data and present our latest data. Now, a good place to start when talking about GAMON is 2020, when my colleague Ammar Maleki and I attempted, in cooperation with Ladan Burumand, to measure Iranian religiosity. Now, prior to that, my research focus was on political secularism in the form of qualitative anthropological research and engagement with political philosophy. So, no numbers. But I saw time and again that researchers of diverse disciplines and even major media refer to institutes such as the World Value Survey, the Pew Research Center, and Gallup, which produced false information about the Iranian population. According to Pew, what you see here, more than 80% of Iran supported Sharia law in the constitution. According to Gallup, the current president, known for his role in mass executions, was astronomically popular. And according to the World Value Survey, based on research conducted in Iran in 2020, 97% of the population self-identified as Muslim. In the meantime, venues such as the New York Times published misleading pieces that claimed, for example, that the majority of Iranian women wear the headscarf by choice. So our first goal was iconoclastic, to smash this image of a religiously and politically homogeneous nation. Now, the hypothesis isn't that the World Value Survey's approach is not scientific. The hypothesis is that they insufficiently accounted for the fact that in Iran, many people experience fear when somebody literally knocks on their door for a survey. Now, given the internet's spectacular growth, we saw an opportunity to organize online surveys, to collect data from different groups, and to try to weight them, to make them as representative as possible in a situation of data scarcity. So in 2019, we had already managed to get 200,000 people to fill out a short survey, which gave us an image of the data we'd collected less, such as samples from regime proponents, women, and people living in rural areas. In 2020, we targeted those groups specifically on social media using Instagram, WhatsApp, and Telegram. In total, 50,000 people answered the questions, around 30 of them, including regime proponents. Our assistants noticed that many remained apprehensive about participating, even if it was anonymous and online. Here's an example of an interaction with an assistant on WhatsApp. Haji, they won't send us to Kahrizak? It's a notorious prison. Ha ha ha, just kidding. But Not really, right? So the most important result after weighting the data was secularization. We found secularization amongst all demographic groups, young and old, with and without university education, in rural areas and in the major cities. Around half said to have gone from being religious to non-religious in their lifetime. So it's a change. And even if we look at the results about, the compulsory hijab, then the trend in favor of political secularism is even sharper. More than 70%, that's the bottom total, explicitly disagreed with the hijab being mandatory in Iran. This is 2020. Yes, you can see that young people, women, and those in cities disagree most often with the compulsory hijab, but also people above 50 years old, men, and those who live in rural areas all overwhelmingly said that they disagreed with such theocratic laws. Now, at this point, of course, you're wondering, is it representative? Since 2020, we conducted multiple surveys and tested the extent to which the results can be said to be representative. We started cooperating with the VPN app Siphon, which is a free application that's used in Iran to access blocked websites such as YouTube. So a lot of people use it. For example, prior to the protests in February 2022, Siphon sent our survey link to 620,000 people in 3 days in Iran, across Iran. By collecting data in such different ways, we were able to make regime proponents, women, and also people in rural areas participate. Here, you can see test results from the survey conducted in February 2022. We compared data from Iran about household income levels. As you can see, the income levels are divided in so-called deciles. So on the right, you see it's 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. It's like a scale divided, and household is more than 3 people in Iran, 3 point something. Below weighted sample, that's our result, weighted sample. So after correcting for, are there enough men or women or people from different provinces and so on. That's our result. You see that we have an overrepresentation of the first decile, 23%, it should be 10, right? So there's actually, there's a bias here towards people with low income, okay? The other numbers, you can see that they're all close to 10. So what does this mean? It means that people from all socioeconomic layers are participating in that survey. Now, what about ethnic diversity? We repeatedly compared our survey results with those of Ethnologue, which is an institute that researches the languages of the world. Ethnologue recently conducted research inside Iran and published the results in 2021. You can see Ethnologue's results on the right? And then weighted sample is our final result. As you can see, they had 63% Farsi speakers in Iran. We also had 63%, right? They had 13.6 Azerbaijani Turkic, we had 12.8. They had 5.8 Kurdish, we had 5.6, right? Now, what about testing attitudinal questions? Our hypothesis was that the World Values Survey worked in a rigorous and reliable way, and their results should be valid for politically non-sensitive questions, but invalid in the case of politically sensitive questions. So repeatedly, including February, we asked the same questions as the World Values Survey about the importance of family, friends, work, and religion. Now, as you can see, the results match, except in the case of religion. In the case of religion, we see an extreme discrepancy. Now, we believe, also because the other mentioned tests on household income levels or languages are working, that this discrepancy is not only due to bias inherent in online opt-in surveys, but much more so because of the fact that people, when surveyed on-site or called by telephone, are more likely, and certainly before the protest, to give a false response in the Iranian theocratic context. Now, in December, so this December, we conducted a similar survey, this time spreading on social media and through Siphon VPN, as well as, for the first time, satellite television channels, Iran International, Voice of America Persian. And what you see on the screen is our advertisement. We were curious to see what would happen if these television channels would also share the survey. What kind of data would be able to collect? Would we get, for example, more people from rural areas? BBC Persian, which is, if you don't know, often accused of bias towards reformists, cited policy as a reason not to cooperate with us. The campaign resulted, so including everything, Siphon, social media, everything, resulted in a sample of over 150,000 respondents inside Iran who answered questions about the nationwide protests following the murder of Mahsa Amini. After testing different weighting models, my colleague, Ammar Maleki, was able to generate results that match the external data. So, for example, here again, the household income levels. You see that this time, the first decile is 12.8, which is good, right? They're all close to 10, and the last four are joined together. It's 37, and that one's 40, right? So again, people of all different kinds of income levels are participating. And here is the distribution of languages, one more time. This time we have a slight bias towards Persian. You see 68, it should be 63, right? But also other languages, Turkish, Kurdish, Arabic, and so on, are sufficiently or almost sufficiently represented. This time, we added one more external check to our repertoire. I love this one. We asked respondents which healthcare insurance they have. So it's not a politically sensitive question. And we compared our results with a poll conducted by ISPA, which is a polling agency of the regime. After sample matching and raking, or what's called weighting, our results almost perfectly match those of ISPA, even for an insurance of the armed forces. You see that? Armed forces insurance. ISPA, so from the regime, had 3.4%, we had 2.9%. So you see that even the more you have of these external checks, the better, right? The more you can be sure that it's representative. And when we again asked and compared attitudinal questions of the World Values Survey, again we found, at the bottom, a huge discrepancy with religiosity. But we also found a difference in the measured importance of friends. This is fascinating. So in multiple surveys, each time in the last 3 years, we have asked the same questions. But for the first time, we didn't get a match on the question of the importance of friends after the protests, right? The importance of friends has very much increased. So it seems, but this is a bit speculation, that there is a kind of increased sense of brotherhood showing itself in this figure. And there are more of such changes. On the other hand, putting Gamon's last 4 surveys next to each other, we find that the percentage of the importance of religion is roughly consistent. It shows that many Iranians do not identify with the concept of religion or do not think religion is or should be very important in their daily lives. Now, for those who've been following the protests, it should be clear that the Iranian population isn't just protesting the compulsory hijab. They are seeking regime change, and they are demanding political secularism. This is consistent in our findings before and after the 2022 protests, but there are some remarkable changes taking place at a rapid pace. The 2022 results, so before the protests, showed that people of all demographic groups disagree with a political system based on religious law. So Iranians are not polarized on this issue. The overwhelming majority is unified in its demand for political secularism. In December 2022, so after the protests, we asked people again if they would vote for the Islamic Republic in a free referendum on Iran's political system. The results do point toward a change in people's attitudes. Well, we found in 2019 around 70% who explicitly said no to the Islamic Republic. This has by now increased to over 80%. And comparing multiple surveys on people's political orientations, we also detected a sharp increase of people who said that they believe regime change should be a precondition for any meaningful changes. So that's the red line that suddenly goes up. That's before and after the protests, right? This sudden increase is the effect of the protests. It's accompanied by a continuing decline of those who believe the Islamic Republic can or should be reformed, and a decline as well of those who still believe in the Islamic Revolution and support the supreme leader. Now, just how angry people are, it's not just about love, right? It's also about anger. Just how angry people are can be observed in a question on transitional justice. We asked in September 2020 and in December 2022 what justice would be should a regime such as the Islamic Republic be overthrown. In the past 2 years, the percentage of those who said they support revolutionary executions of regime officials has doubled, right? That's the top, right? Well, those who support punishments other than the death penalty have declined. Now, when we broke down the demographics, we found that in our latest survey, especially women, people without a university education, and young people supported revolutionary executions. So if you see the very interesting, right, difference in the bottom, you see male, female, and females, they have much more often supported revolutionary executions. Right? I interpret this as a manifestation of their anger and oppression. Okay, so I have to wrap up. More about this research can be read in the latest report, which is available at gammon.com. What I've shown today is accompanied by a massive change in the Persian public discourses, which are normalizing and rehabilitating the concept of inqilab, revolution. My impression is that the West is still lagging behind, that people inside Iran are far more radical in their demands than many Western politicians, journalists, and academics have been long willing to admit. They claim, for instance, that Iranians don't believe the protests can succeed, based on the observation that the number of protests declined or that not enough people have participated in strikes. But our results show a completely different picture, with the overwhelming majority, 67%, expressing the hope that the protests can succeed. And they are asking Western governments to support them, to put the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on the terror list, to stop engaging with the Islamic Republic, and to seriously pressure the regime. How we respond to their hope will co-determine the fate of democratization in Iran. Will we choose hope and justice? Will we be honest about the failed attempts to reform the Islamic Republic? Will we admit that this regime is, to paraphrase one of my favorite philosophers, Thomas Hobbes, a confederacy of deceivers who with their erroneous doctrines extinguish the light of reason? Or will we continue on the so-called path of diplomacy, which is nothing else but dispreparing the world for its first revolution in the name of women, life, and liberty? Whatever we choose, the Iranian people do not want an Islamic Republic, and they will resist, and sooner or later, this regime will have to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That is a hopeful message to end our presentation with. There is one guest who has not had the word yet, and he's sitting right next to me. Ulysse Ellian, a member for the parliament, for the Dutch parliament, for the VVD. We are very happy that you are here. You have a personal connection, of course, with the country. We have seen so many things tonight, presentation, performances, music. What resonates the most with you?
You know, I think it's, on the one side, it's hope that we can win. But on the other side, you know, it's pain. It's pain we've been feeling for, you know, for a long time. You know, it's hard for me to watch the images of you know, when you have a history, when your family has fled from Iran, or when you know people there, you know, these things are not new. You know, I understand for the West it's kind of new, but for us it's not new. We know this. It's a fight we've been on, you know, for like 4 decades. So it's hard for me to watch, but, you know, it has to happen now. You know, and I'm very, very happy with the work of, where did you go, my friend? Pooyan. It's very important because, you know, I saw the quote of Jafari. You know, it angers me to my mind, people saying, yeah, we don't know if the people of Iran want change, we don't know if they want revolution. What do you think they want? They don't want this regime anymore. So I'm so happy that you've proven this with statistics. You know, but because the debate was always, yeah, how can you say this? You have a political interest. No, you know, we know the people want to get rid of the regime. Yeah, they didn't speak out all the time, which is normal because when you do, you get killed. You know, so so I'm very happy with everything you do. So it's my job as a member. I'm the only, no, there are 2 members of parliament in Holland who have a background in Iran.
Yeah.
So it's my, you know, it's my moral duty to do what I can.
And you say this is not new for us. We know these images. We know this fight. What is different this time, in your view?
You know, I think, you know, the game changer, of course, it's the revolution of the women. It's led by women. I think that's totally different. And secondly, the world can't. You can't turn your back. You know, everything is being sent by social media. I think that's also the big difference with the 2009 Green movement. You can't turn your back anymore. You have to watch. It's happening under your eyes, under your nose. So I think, yeah, that's a game changer. You know, the Dutch Parliament was one of the first parliaments, I think even the first in Europe, to vote on a motion, on a resolution, to put the IRGC on the terrorist list.
Yeah.
If you would ask me 7 years ago, I would say, no, good luck, this will... nobody will burn their hands, we say in Holland. Yeah. So things are changing, and because people are seeing day by day what's happening, and you know, and I think a lot of dissidents all over the world speaking out. It's really important. You know, I'm just like this, but you know, people in the US, other people in Europe. You know, the word brotherhood, I think, is very important. We have to be one voice, and there's only one thing we can say: we don't want the Islamic regime, and the key to reaching that, in my opinion, is of course getting rid of the IRGC. If the regime cannot rely on the IRGC, things will change. They are, you know, it's like a murder machine, you know.
Niloofar, I was wondering, because Ulysse just said, yeah, we are here, we are with a big diaspora all over the world. How is it for you to watch the protest and be here?
Yeah, I think for the easy answer is that it's unbearable, like for all of us, like. And in the other hand, I kind of envy people who are fighting in the street. I'm not sure if I was in Iran, I was brave enough to go to the street. But anyway, the fact that they are so brave and they're living all their power, it's kind of like I envy them. Like,
And you are a documentary maker. You said it in your speech that you made a documentary about domestic violence. And that didn't go really well in the eyes of the regime. Did you ever, before that moment, think about going away, going out of Iran?
Yeah, of course. I think all young people in Iran, they like to some point immigrate, but I always wanted to see the world and go back to Iran. Like, I never wanted to be disconnected from my country, but at some point we have to.
Yeah. Would you ever go back, you think?
I think yes, I'm quite hopeful. Yeah, but I always was very conscious about my activities that because I always want to go back to Iran, and I was living in fear and very careful about all kinds of activity I'm doing, also in social media. But what this protest did with people, this veil of fear just dropped down, and we don't scare anymore, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful
for the future.
Yeah.
Maryam, you have been an activist for decades, I think. You've been waiting for this moment to happen all your life, perhaps, for the revolution to take place. How is it for you to watch?
Well, I mean, I think, I think we all believe that this is the real people of Iran. And it's the Islamic regime that has stopped this wonderful, brave people to really be able to show their dreams and aspirations. And I do think it is a continuation of the 1979 revolution, which I don't think was an Islamic revolution, though everybody calls it Islamic. I think it's very much victors writing history. It's the lion that decides, how history is going to be recalled. And I do think it was a revolution against dictatorship. It was suppressed by an Islamic movement. We have to remember that at the time in '79, it was during the Cold War. It was a time when Islamism was something that US foreign policy used as a tool against the Soviet Union at the time, to create a green belt around the Soviet Union. And now we know all those secret documents have come to light from the Guadeloupe conference, where they decided that they prefer an Islamic state, with Heuser, the general, going to Iran and talking to the army. And so we know that the Islamic movement was, in a sense, pushed on the people of Iran, and it suppressed, it killed entire generations in order to maintain itself. So for me, I feel this is the unfinished business of a revolution against dictatorship and for a different life. And I think it's very hopeful. I think any Iranian in this room knows that many times we've talked about packing our suitcases and going back every time there's some protest that takes place. But I think for the first time, maybe it feels like it's really a possibility that change can really happen. And it's this generation that really is, of course, standing on the backs of many generations who have died for freedom and for equality in that country. But this generation is a generation that is fearless. It is a generation that has always has been brought up with digital portable technology at its very fingertips.
And knows how to use it.
Knows how to use it and is known. They have, it's not Soraya M. was stoned to death. We know these people who are being killed. We see their social media footprints. And social media, in a sense, is doing to Islam what the printing press has done to Christianity. It's having a huge effect and giving this connection to the world and giving us all hope, I think. But hope, and I think we need hope, because we're living in a world that is so dark, that is so violent, that is so brutal, that to see people rising up against this sort of unbelievably misogynist, unbelievably brutal and violent movement, standing up to it with their bare fists, burning their veils, dancing in the streets, doing everything that is illegal in that country.
Yeah.
It's something that gives us all hope and courage. And the problem is, though, that nothing, no matter how legitimate, how just, is necessarily going to reach victory. It's not a given. It's not guaranteed. If it was guaranteed, then we could all just put our feet up and relax. The point is that how we each intervene in this situation is what will determine its future and its fate. And I think for me, we should all see our reflections in this revolution, because it is really this wonderfully deep and human slogan of woman, life, freedom. You know, the protest and revolution that we're seeing unfolding on the streets of Iran, it is something that belongs to all of us. So how much are we going to take a stand in its defense? It does depend a lot on us. I'm not talking about Western governments. I have no faith in them. They will keep a dictator for as long as it helps with profit, because profit always comes before human welfare. They have actually, you know, Islamism is a product of US foreign policy during the Cold War. Now, of course, it's a beast on its own, and even the US can't control it. No one can control it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm talking about people-to-people solidarity. It's what has changed the world and what can still change the world if we believe enough that our interventions as individuals, as human beings, whether we're Iranian background or not, can have a huge effect. And that's, I think, what the people of Iran are banking on. That's what we're all banking on. Are we going to be that? Are we going to play the role at this historical juncture that is required of all of us?
Niloofar, you are organizing protests and freedom events in the Netherlands and in Amsterdam. How's that going? Is there a lot of solidarity and support?
Yeah, sometimes like you have this period that it becomes a bit less, but I think in general it's really hopeful, like how people in Europe also are reacting to the protest. And I think it's also the way that Iranians are fighting in social media and the huge knowledge of social media that they had to gain during these last years, because they were forbidden to do anything. So they just were in social media and learning stuff through social media. But what they forbidden for people in Iran, it actually became a fighting tool against them now.
Ulysse, there has been news lately that the regime is also releasing some people from the prisons, which looks like good news, like some people are being let free. How do we have to see that?
Look, for the individuals who are free, I'm happy for them. You know, nothing is worse than being in prison. However, we should not be fooled by the regime. You know, they want to show their nice face to the world. But you know, there's still like almost, those are only estimates, like 20,000 people in jail.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I keep saying, I keep emphasizing time and time again, yes, they will set some prisoners free. You know, look, prisoners, they shouldn't even be in prison. You know, that's the first thing. But secondly, if they want, just with the stroke of a pen, they can sign the death sentence of all of them. So look, because I also heard some politicians in Europe. Look, it's good news, they're setting some people free, and I'm like, no, the only good news is when the mullahs are gone. Then it's good news, you know. And the prisons are empty. Then, besides the criminals and all, but that's so we should not be fooled. But the one thing I take some hope from is, I do think they're worried. You know, I think. For the first time, the regime sees, you know, the world is watching. So, yeah, it's a historical moment in time when we all have to play our role. I have to play mine. Everybody can play their own, your own intervention that will decide, the fate of the people. But don't be fooled by these
gestures.
No. Because they can take them, they can arrest them again if they want. You know.
Yeah. I also want to see if there are any questions from the audience, because we've been talking for a very long time. But okay, my assistant Margot will come to you with a microphone so everyone can hear you clearly. I think here on the first row, right? Yeah.
Thank you for your incredibly touching stories. It brought up so many questions to me, and I will.
Try to start with one.
Yes, I will, of course. You mentioned that you have very little faith in Western governments And I was wondering, how do you see sanctions in the Iranian regime? Putin was not very impressed with them. I don't believe the Iranian regime, as of now, is particularly impressed by them. What else would there be?
Maryam.
Okay, should we
Yeah.
answer? Okay. Well, I mean, I think, look, I think we all know that every right that has been gained, even in the Netherlands, anywhere in the world, is not something that those in power have said, here you go, have some maternity rights, and why don't you have the right to strike? It's been fought for, you know, and I think that also with Western governments, if there's not pressure on them, they will carry on with business as usual. So it's up to citizens to put so much pressure to embarrass and shame them into having continued relations with the regime. And a great example of this is, you know, the apartheid regime of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was called a terrorist by many governments. The South African regime was supported, despite the fact that there was racial apartheid in that country. There's sex apartheid in Iran, and business goes on as usual. And so then there was a time when Nelson Mandela was welcomed, and there was enough pressure to put an end to the apartheid regime. And a lot of that pressure came from outside as well. You know, especially, and now more so, because we live in a global village now, and with social media, we're connected in ways that we were never connected before. And so there's so much more possibility to put that pressure on. Look, the reality is, they've got to expel ambassadors from this country. Why does the Islamic regime of Iran have an embassy here, or in Britain, or in Germany? They are criminals. They should be tried in a criminal court rather than having embassies. They should be expelled. Of course, there should be sanctions against them, but real, meaningful sanctions, and one that hurts the regime and not the population. You know, and I think the reality is that that's only going to happen with pressure. And that's what we need from people, citizens across the globe. I mean, a great example is the UN Commission on the Status of Women. You know, Iran was a member of the UN Commission. It is the highest body promoting gender equality at the United Nations. Iran was a member of that committee and has been for a long time. And now also Sudan, Saudi Arabia, they're members of the UN Commission on the Status of Women. Iran is the first country to have ever been expelled from that commission. Why? Because of public pressure, not because governments suddenly realized that the Iranian regime is one of the most misogynist states in the world, but because of public pressure. And that public pressure can shut down embassies in these countries, can expel ambassadors, can break ties with the Iranian regime, and can make governments stop supporting and maintaining the Islamic regime. And that's up to all of you. It's not, you know, something that, will you please do this? You have a responsibility to do this. And it is your task today, if you are pro-women's rights, if you are pro-equality, and if you want to see an end of Islamism in this world, this is the beginning of the end of one of the main pillars of Islamism across the globe. If you look at, since the Islamic regime of Iran was established, we have seen the rise of Islamism across the globe. It has wreaked havoc in the lives of so many countless people across the globe, and we've seen a corresponding rise in other religious right movements. So here there are people, citizens, young people, Generation Z, some of them school children, standing up against this regime, being shot at, being arrested. What can you do? You have to ask yourself that question. There's this great labor song. It says, which side are you on? Which side are you on? The only response anyone can give today is, I am on the side of women, life, freedom. That is the only ethical, moral response that anyone can give when we see this unfolding revolution in Iran.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your lovely presentations all. First, I should mention that I don't consider myself a communist. I'm not anti-American per se. I know that Iran is extremely rich in natural resources. And nowadays we have an ever-growing demand amongst the superpowers to get a hold of these resources worldwide in all different countries. with referral to the autobiography that John Perkins wrote, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, how can you be sure that the revolution is not instigated and or fueled by one of the superpowers with another agenda?
Okay,
That's
so
a very good question, but
yeah.
I think you can.
Maybe somebody else will answer, because that just makes me angry, so I can't answer
Yeah.
it. Sorry, you go ahead while I calm down.
You calm down. Well, yeah, look, the main focus here is the freedom of the people. You know, it's not. I think the people, the people in Iran, they want liberty. You know, they want to have fundamental rights like we have in Europe. That's the main thing. You know, and I think the people of Iran are educated enough and smart enough to know what they want, and I don't think they will allow any superpower to, to take that kind of position. You know, let me rephrase the question. If the regime falls, you spoke about this, the whole world will be a safer place. That should be the main focus. It's in the interest of everybody, you know, and all these theories. You know, I think the U.S. government they didn't support the movement in 2009. Nobody did anything. You know, this is the first time in my life I'm seeing some serious interventions. So now you know.
You don't think anyone else is involved? No.
No. Look, but with involvement, yes, we have to support the people. But the main thing is the people want to be free. They want their own constitution, a fair constitution. Now that should be that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about intervention of other.
I mean, I think in reality, if you look at superpower intervention, it has been in favor of the Islamic regime of Iran. As I mentioned, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan to an Islamic regime in Iran, it was part of US foreign policy during the Cold War. None of the left, however, talks about how, and I'm on the left myself, let me add, talk about how Islamism is a intervention of superpowers. They would never say that. But Islamism is a revolutionary force, while it's killing and murdering the working class in many of the countries in that region. What interests me is, would the same question be asked if there's a strike here, like there's strikes now in Britain, to save the NHS, to save the privatized railroads that are being destroyed by the Tories? Is there a superpower behind those protests, the strikes, and the nurses wanting more pay, and the teachers demanding respect? Since when do superpowers support the fight for people, for freedoms? They prefer dictatorships. Historically, look at every country that superpowers have intervened in. It's because they prefer dictatorship. Dictatorships is good for profit. Cheap labor, silent labor, one that you can do anything you want with without any of the, very annoying regulations that you have in Europe. So to ask that question really angers me, because if you cannot see that this is a movement that is not linked to superpowers, but it's people demanding the same life you have, how dare you think that they don't deserve the same thing? And the minute that they ask for something that you take for granted, it's superpowers intervening. I mean, it's absurd when you think about it. It's absurd. It's so that you can shrug your responsibility towards this movement in Iran, this revolution. This revolution is going to happen without you, but we also need the support of people, and we need people to support it. Don't worry, the superpowers are busy trying to figure out how they can smash this revolution. They did it in '79, and right now they are very busy trying to organize regime change from above. Don't you worry, they are doing what they need to do. What are you going to do to stop them from doing that and from supporting a people's revolution?
That's a very clear answer. Thank you. Is there maybe one last question before we go to the bar? The word bar is really...
Bar.
So, yeah.
No more questions.
Okay. Then I will close up. I think we are still in conversation and we can have a drink and talk some more. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all my guests and for you for listening so attentively. Thank you so much.